Hey, what's up guys, Robin here from RBN Hardware. So AMD has just announced its next gen Zen 3 based Ryzen 5000 CPUs and things are indeed looking very good. 5th gen Ryzen brings a brand new core technology and a lot of new features that will skyrocket the gaming performance, and these new processors will make Intel look silly in comparison. But the question is, should you upgrade? Well, to answer that, let's look at what was said at the event. So first and foremost, AMD is kicking Zen 3 and 5th gen Ryzen off with 4 CPUs, all of which will be available at launch on November 5th. The CPUs in question are the following: the Ryzen 5 5600X, the Ryzen 7 5800X, and the Ryzen 9 5900X, as well as the 16-core 5950X. In terms of specifications, as we can see, the core count between Zen 3 and Zen 2 stays identical. However, as far as clock speed goes, we see that AMD's been able to bump the clock speed by about 200 MHz in comparison to its older Zen 2 parts. And this is actually quite a lot lower than what some rumors have been indicating, as we have seen reports up to 5 GHz for some Zen 3 models. So yeah, that is a bit disappointing. Still, however, it is a nice achievement nonetheless. According to AMD, regardless which out of these 4 CPUs you end up picking, it will be the best and fastest gaming processor for its core count. Now I figured let's start things off with specifications and pricing and compare some of the numbers to 3rd gen Ryzen, to then spend the rest of the video on the new and exciting features with Zen 3 and whether it's actually worth upgrading or not. Let's start with the 5600X, and as we can see, this is a 6-core processor with a clock speed of 3.7 base and 4.6 boost. We see that the cooler comes included, and this one will cost $299, which is about $90 more than the Zen 2 based 3600X, currently selling for $209 US. Next up, we find the Ryzen 7 5800X. We see that it's got a base clock of 3.8 and 4.7 boost. Now the base speed here is actually 100 MHz slower than the older 3800X sibling. However, as we can see, the boost clock has also been increased by 300 MHz, so I guess that makes up the difference. Now this one will be priced at $449. Now if we take a quick look at Amazon, we see that the 3800X currently sits at $340. That makes it more than $100 cheaper. Now finally, we find the Ryzen 9 and the 5900 and the 5950X. Similarly as previous Ryzen 9 CPUs, these are 12 and 16 core parts. Something to have in mind though guys is that both of these are mainly aimed at users with demanding heavy multi-threading workloads. Now the 5900 has a 3.7 GHz base clock and a boost that can go all the way up to 4.8. which makes it about 100 to 200 MHz faster than the 3900X. Now the 3900X launched 1 year ago with an MSRP of $499, however right now it can actually be found for as low as $429. The 5900X will feature a retail price of $549, and so that is actually quite a lot higher when you compare these side by side. And so to summarize this, as we can see guys, spec-wise the difference between Zen 2 and Zen 3 is actually quite small. So there has to be something other than the specifications that make these new processors so fast in games. And the answer lies in the design and how the processor is built. So this is a bit technical, but I'm gonna try and explain this in the best way I can. So unlike the previous generation design, where each CCD comprised of 2 CCXs, the new Zen 3 CCD will consist of a single CCX, which will feature 8 cores that can run in either a single thread mode or 2 thread mode for up to 16 threads per CCX. And these new changes will have a huge impact on the gaming performance. As we can see, upcoming 5900X is up to 50% faster in 1080p in some games compared to previous generation, which is massive. And in comparison to Intel, according to AMD, they're up to 21% ahead of the 10900K with the 5900X. However, keep in mind guys, these are cherry-picked games, we're gonna have to wait for real benchmarks before we can say too much here, but from the look of it, Zen 3 and 50 Gen Ryzen looks like it will be quite a lot more faster in games than Intel, and it will be interesting to see how the lower end non-X parts will perform here. Unfortunately, it does seem like we're gonna have to wait until 2021 until we start seeing non-X models. So in case you want to build a cheap PC before Christmas for example, and you don't want to wait, yeah, I'd say picking up a cheap 3600 or a 3700 CPU would be your best bet here. Something worth having in mind though guys is that the 10900K is actually cheaper, coming in at $529. However, because of shortage, it is currently selling for a whopping $800, and that makes the 5900X sound like a much better deal. Looking at the comparison here between the 5900 and the 10900, the 5900X looks like a fantastic deal. However, keep in mind guys, these are cherry-picked benchmarks, so we should treat this with a grain of salt. But yeah, it is safe to say that things are looking promising. And as a last note guys, I also want to thank you for your feedback. It has been obvious that I've been talking a bit too fast, and good or bad, I'm grateful for any type of criticism that can improve the experience for the viewer, so obviously I need to slow down a bit here. So once again, thank you for trying to kick me in the right direction, and clearly I do have a lot to improve on. With that said, what are your thoughts on 50 Gen Ryzen and Zen 3? Let us know down below.